The DC Extended Universe might be struggling to find some critical success, but its movies are still making a lot of money. And Warner Brothers has more than a dozen, 16 actually, for those keeping count, in various stages of development right now. So what do fans have to look forward to over the next 5 or so years? Let's crack the cover and find out. Wonder Woman. It's been a long road, but director Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman movie is set to finish a journey that many fans never thought would arrive in theaters in June 2017. DC's biggest female hero is long overdue for her solo shot at big screen glory. Thankfully, the early trailers from the film look fantastic, and Gal Gadot's take on Diana was one of the best things about Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. So, there's something to build on. But there's been a cloud of negative buzz surrounding the project, with some supposed insiders claiming it's a mess. For the sake of DC and Wonder Woman fans everywhere, we hope those rumors are far from the truth. Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League, set to hit theaters in November 2017, picks up in the wake of Batman vs. Superman and is reportedly having its tone heavily retooled on the fly after all the negative buzz from Batman vs. Superman's overly grim tone. It'll apparently follow Batman and Wonder Woman as they look to assemble a team of heroes to pick up the slack following Superman's apparent death at the end of that film. Considering it's not the Justice League without Superman, we'd think it'll also feature that guy's resurrection too. Aquaman. He's been the butt of jokes for years, but James Wan's December 2018 Aquaman film looks to finally bring some respect to the man who talks to fish. Casting burly Game of Thrones alum Jason Momoa in the title role didn't hurt much either. The film will reportedly feature the classic comic character Black Manta as the central villain, and introduce audiences at large to the wider world of Atlantis and the Undersea Kingdom's culture. It's a risky venture, but having Furious 7 director James Wan at the helm means, if nothing else, the action should at least be up to snuff. Shazam. Warner Brothers has been prepping a Shazam movie for a while now, and all we really know is that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is attached to play the villain, Black Adam. Outside of that, there really hasn't been a lot of momentum. We don't know a lot about the story, and the filmmakers have been coy about just how much it will or won't connect to the DCEU at large. Outside of Johnson and a projected release date of April 2019, there's been no word on casting, like who will play teenager Billy Batson, or his superpowered alter ego. Whoever it is, the pressure will be on to actually match up against Johnson as the big bad. Green Lantern Corps. No casting has been announced for this film about superpowered space cops, but the studio is actively working this one behind the scenes, with a script from David Goyer and Justin Rhodes on the way. Despite the fact that it's 3 years out, Warner Brothers is bullish, with a release date of July 2020 already locked. No word on the plot, but it's been described as Lethal Weapon in space, which, sounds pretty much perfect. We also know it'll focus on 2 different characters. The popular Green Lantern characters Hal Jordan, who was previously played by Ryan Reynolds, and Jon Stewart. Bringing Stewart is a wise move. He's a fan favorite, and getting him in the mix will help this film stand out from the previous critically panned Green Lantern flick. Hey, it really can't be worse, right?
Yeah, that part I heard about.
The Flash. Pretty much the only thing we know about DC's Flash feature set for 2020 is that it'll star Ezra Miller as the big screen Barry Allen. Aside from that, everything's in flux. Director Rick Famuyiwa was originally attached, but he left the project in late 2016 due to creative differences. It's been months, and as of the making of this video, the studio is still looking to fill the directional void. Considering all the creative problems DC has had behind the scenes, the split from Famuyiwa isn't a great sign. But Warner Brothers looks to be taking its time to try to get this one right, which is smart. As the CW's hit Flash series has proven, there's an audience out there that loves this character. The pressure is on to get them out from in front of their TVs and into theaters. Cyborg. By the time Cyborg shows up in his solo movie, fans should be pretty familiar with him. Ray Fisher's version of the character will have co-starring roles in Justice League and The Flash. And as much as Warner Brothers loves cameos, it wouldn't be surprising to see him pop up elsewhere too. We already got a fleeting glimpse of Cyborg thanks to those handy Lex Luthor YouTube videos in Batman vs. Superman, but we'll presumably learn more about him over the next few films. Since the character will have been thoroughly introduced by the time this one rolls around, it stands to reason it probably won't be an origin story. Or if it is, at least it won't be the entire focus of the story. The Batman. Batman is easily the cash cow of the DC universe, and Warner Brothers seems keen to get a standalone movie made starring Ben Affleck as the new version of the Dark Knight. Affleck has been developing the project for a while, but it was recently announced he wouldn't be directing. Instead, he'll be focusing on his work in front of the camera. By moving Affleck out of the director's chair and hiring Matt Reeves, it seems the studio might be trying to get the project made sooner than later. Meanwhile, Affleck has said numerous times that he wasn't in a huge hurry to get it done. Little is known about the project, aside from the fact that it will likely feature Joe Manganiello as key villain Deathstroke. But with the project getting a revamp, who knows if Deathstroke will even survive the rewrites. Dark Universe. Sometimes known as Justice League Dark during development, this project is set to focus on the mystical side of the DCEU, featuring characters such as John Constantine, Swamp Thing, Deadman, and Zatanna. Edge of Tomorrow's Doug Liman signed on to direct in 2016, though there hasn't been much information since then. Considering the success Marvel had with Doctor Strange, it stands to reason Warner Brothers will be keen to get this one off the bench soon. Hopefully they'll tap Matt Ryan to play John Constantine on the big screen, because, let's be honest, the dude is perfect. Gotham City Sirens. David Ayer's follow-up to Suicide Squad looks to be this Harley Quinn-centric spin-off, as opposed to a straight-up sequel. Ayer is set to re-team with Margot Robbie for the film, which will focus on Harley Quinn and several other female heroes and villains across the DC Comics canon. No word on which characters will show up, though ladies like Catwoman and Poison Ivy seem likely. Between this and the Wonder Woman movie, DC has an excellent opportunity to take the edge over Marvel Studios in female-led superhero fare, which could be a huge move for a studio playing catch-up. The movies just, need to be good. Justice League 2. Warner Brothers originally penciled this one for 2019, but it's since been bumped to an unspecified date to clear out some space for the Batman. This one might not be locked in anywhere at the moment, but of all the projects at the far end of DC's master plan, it stands to reason another Justice League is one of the most bankable. The Avengers has become a flagship franchise for Marvel, and DC is looking to leverage Justice League in the same way. Of course, there are a lot of standalone movies and spin-offs to make in the meantime. Man of Steel 2. All logic points to Superman featuring in the Justice League film in some way, but despite Man of Steel formally kicking off this shared cinematic universe, the studio doesn't seem to be in a major hurry to give him another solo adventure. The cast has confirmed a script in the works, but with so many other movies on the docket, you would have to think it could be years until they actually get around to making this one. There's also the questions of how DC wants to treat the character in the long term, and whether or not they've learned anything from the Hulk over at Marvel. Both are insanely powerful characters, and both typically work a bit better in an ensemble. Much like Marvel puts Hulk out to play in the big movies, DC could follow the same playbook with Superman. Suicide Squad 2. A proper Suicide Squad sequel is in development, but there's been no word on when it'll actually hit the big screen. Despite anemic reviews, the first film still made a whole lot of money, and introduced characters like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and Will Smith's Deadshot, both of whom will almost certainly pop up in DCEU down the line. Suicide Squad is a semi-proven commodity within the universe, which is significant, but with Warner Brothers high on getting Gotham City Sirens off the ground, this one could stay on the back burner for a while. Deadshot. Will Smith is one of Hollywood's biggest stars, so it's no surprise Warner Brothers is looking to spin him off with a film focused on his Suicide Squad character Deadshot. Outside of Ben Affleck, Smith is arguably the biggest star in the DCEU, so it's only a matter of time until they get him suited back up for another fight against Batman. At this point, the project seems to be in very early development, and there's no word on where it might eventually fit in the overall schedule. Black Adam. This one has everyone a bit confused. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been attached to co-star in a Shazam movie for years, playing the villain Black Adam. And we recently heard that Warner Brothers is now developing a full-fledged Black Adam spin-off film, which will split the character off into more of an anti-hero. Johnson explained the plans to reporters. "We're building our world that way, and then we can come together at some point. It remains to be seen how DC will juggle a two-pronged side section of the DCEU while they're still trying to establish the main universe." Lobo. Word leaked in 2016 that Warner Brothers is looking to bring the space bounty hunter Lobo back to the DCEU, and Wonder Woman writer Jason Fuchs is reportedly working on the script now. The studio has also signed Brad Peyton, who helmed the Earthquake movie San Andreas, to direct. A film based on Lobo has kicked around development hell for the better part of a decade, with Sherlock Holmes' Guy Ritchie attached to make one as far back as 2009. Despite the false starts, this new project is apparently a fresh take on the character. Considering the success Fox and Marvel had with Deadpool, Lobo could be a foul-mouthed sweet spot for DC to get in on the action. Maybe. Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.